Um, Now, the last one I'm going to talk about is the last addition to the, you know, I decided at some point after the book came out that I would just continue to add to that. I went back to the blog and I ranked all the songs in order, or I ranked them on Facebook. It was supposed to be a way to get people to buy the book, to get some interest. That didn't really work out, but I did rank them.
You have to start, Phil. You have to start labeling the new editions, eh? Like you're in your, you can tell people you're in your third printing and stuff, and your fourth,
I know
like
it's going to
Mystery
be.
Train, or seventh edition.
Yeah, well, it's going to be like the Bill James abstracts, where there's original
Yeah.
copies and reprints. And I have a funny story about that. I'll have to tell you not tonight, but next time, because you haven't been. I know you haven't been.
You did tell me that actually,
I gave you the gist of the
or
story,
the main part, yeah.
main part. Anyway, so I ranked the 107 songs, and then I said, okay, if I ever come across something that I really like, I'm just going to go back to the blog and add it to the list. So this is the very last thing I added. It was
Mm.
within the last few months, within the last 2 or 3 months, and I'll continue to add stuff.
And you have a write-up about it?
No, no, I'm at
Oh,
this
okay,
point.
just to the list, just to the list.
I'm
Okay.
not ruling that out. If I ever get ambitious and something I really love, yeah, I'd be more than happy to post on the blog. Not necessarily put out a new edition of the book, but if I got six more, I would do that. So I watched the entirety. It's like 9 seasons, I think, of The Office, the American version of The Office. So no real interest in watching the British one with Ricky Gervais. Um, but I watched the American one. I was glad I did. It was, up and down, but I took stuff away from it that I know I'll just, always think about and always remember. Some of it funny, a music thing that we're going to talk about tonight. Definitely two major crushes on two characters. Um, so I'm really glad I put in the time, and I went through it very quickly too, because it's a sitcom, so the episodes would run about 17 minutes or 20 minutes, and I'd watch three in a night. It was a couple of people in St. Mary's that got me onto it. One whom I bowl with, one whom I play tennis with. Now, before this is Nobody But Me, the Human Beings. Great song, great garagey pop, the pop end of Garage from 65 or 66. Turns up in the opening episode of season 7, 2010. Um, the Office is, it's plotted and there are storylines to go on and there are big events that change the course of the series, but it's not like Mad Men
Yeah.
or Breaking Bad or The Sopranos, where you'll have a season ending. Something will happen at the end of the season where everything hinges on it.
Yeah.
They leave you hanging. This is the opening of season 7. I went back to check what happened at the end of season 6. And it wasn't really anything of great consequence. They were having a problem where one of their photocopiers was spontaneously going up in flames, and 3 different people in the office leaked that to various sources. They were trying to trace the leak, and that was it. And nothing happened that had to be resolved at the beginning of season 7. So how season 7 began, it was a complete cold opening. Now, up until this point, music had only really, music would be here and there, but often it was characters singing songs. It only been used really prominently once, and used really memorably. It was when two of the main characters got married in season 6, about halfway through, near the beginning of season 6, Pam and Jim. And that's the thing that drew me to the series at first. I think I mentioned to you, you've got this comedy that's centered around Steve Carell saying all sorts of outrageous things. He's kind of an idiot. He'll at times you'll think, oh, there's more to him than you might initially think. But basically, he's just a blowhard and just the most politically incorrect guy imaginable. And I think I knew that going into the series. That part of it I expected. And some of it is funny. It's very funny. I don't know if he would get it on the air today, because it was a different climate then. It was series started, I think, for most of the course of the series, if not all of it, Obama's president.
Mm.
And it was almost like, saying this stuff was okay. you don't want to say this stuff when Trump's president, with Trump around. You don't want to say it because it's like, when Obama's president, clearly it's a joke. And it's the times. You say it when Trump's president, like you make it just comes across horribly. So that's what the series mostly about. But in the middle of that, there's this incredible, amazing romance that I just did not expect. It's as good as any romance I've ever seen on a TV series, where Pam, the receptionist, is set to get married to a guy from the warehouse. Name escapes me, of course. But meanwhile, she's clearly falling in love with Jim, who's just a paper salesman for this company, Dunder Mifflin, who works at the desk opposite her. And their romance is so great that Jim is, he's got to not step over this line. She's engaged to be married, but he knows there's something there. They're dancing around this. And clearly the makers of the series picked up very quickly that people were loving this because it just became very prominent the first few seasons, more and more prominent. And they finally got married in season 4. And that was the only other great use of music for their wedding. I guess this was a real viral thing at the time. Some couple got married and they had a Chris Brown song that they used at the wedding. And they had this whole choreographed thing. And The Office is paying tribute to that. I don't know if it was the exact same song, but apparently, this fictional character, Jim, he saw that on YouTube. He didn't want anybody to do that at his wedding. So they went off. They snuck out of their own wedding and went on the Mist of the Maiden, or Maiden of the Mist at Niagara Falls, just so he could get away from that. Right. But of course, when they came back, sure enough, they had planned to do this. So they had this great choreographed people dancing down the aisle to this Chris Brown song. Now, I'm sure they wish they'd used something other than Chris Brown.
Yeah.
These days. It was a great scene anyway. Now, season 7 begins. Cold opening. This character, Andy, and I'm going to describe it in detail if that's okay, because it's just done so well. This was 2010, so this is the era of these things called lip dubs. Now, the first one that I know, I know it was the very first one, but it's the first one I ever paid attention to on YouTube. It was a great one that they did out of the University of Quebec, or I know I've got the French name, de la Université de Quebec à Montréal. I don't know if it's called Montreal University in Quebec or whatever it is. A whole bunch of students in 2009 did one for the Black Eyed Peas, I Got a Feeling, which of course I loved that song at the time, and I still enjoy hearing it, although I've heard it too much. And they're lip syncing to the song, and they've got all these choreographed dance moves. And the thing is, it's a single shot, right? The camera, right? So always moving, and everybody's got to do their cues perfectly. So clearly, the people that made The Office had seen this. And another well-known one comes a year later. It's the one I wrote about in the American Pie book, where this town, Grand Rapids in Michigan, they were having all sorts of economic problems, unemployment, and they did a huge lip dub with the entire town, thousands, hundreds of people, to American Pie. And that got a lot of attention. This is smack in between the two of them, 2010. Clearly, they'd seen the I Got a Feeling, so they opened season 7 with a lip dub. It starts with the elevator doors opening, and we see this character, Andy. He's listening to his iPod. He's looking down, and we hear the opening of Nobody But Me, which is feedback, basically. He doesn't look at the camera until the no, no, no start. As soon as the no, 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 he looks up and he starts lip syncing along with it. And from there, it's just one continuous shot, and it's just amazing because every character is in it, and it's the way they use the characters, which I know I sent it to you, and you probably got to see it, Scott, but unless you've seen it, you don't know the personality of the characters and how they're all kind of playing to type. It's just perfect. Andy gives way to Pam, who is one of the two characters, the receptionist. Just like any straight guy that watches this is going to fall in love with Pam. She's just unbelievable in a very kind of wholesome way from another era. like she's really sexy, but she's also very wholesome, and she's really smart, but also very kind of open and not cynical and all that. She's like, she's the whole package. um, it's got her skipping along to the song, skipping backwards. And then we cut to, and she's very effervescent. It captures her personality. Then from out behind her, Kelly and Oscar jump out. Kelly is an Indian. She's very funny on the show. Apparently, she wrote a lot of the show and directed some episodes. She's a stand-up comic. Mindy Kaling is her name.
Yeah.
And Oscar, who's gay and very funny. He's kind of can be very condescending to the other people around the office. They're dancing behind her, and then we see Kevin in the background who's dancing. He's one of the characters who's funny at times, and a little goes a long way, and other times it's just enough. You don't want any more from him. But he's in the background. They're all singing along, and then from out of nowhere jumps out the other character I love, Erin, who's Pam's replacement as receptionist when she went off when she married Jim. I think she was already pregnant, maybe. I can't remember, but she has the baby and she goes on mat leave, and Erin replaces her. And she's kind of a conventional character in that she's over the top, dumb at times, but in a really funny way. Like, you really do get to like her, and she's flirtatious with Andy. And anyway, she's the next person. She's on roller skates. She skates into the frame, and she's singing along. And then after her, Pam twirls Jim around in the chair. And Jim, his personality is that he really doesn't want to do this. He doesn't want to be part of this, but he begrudgingly does it to keep Pam happy. He's really funny on the series. It's John Krasinski. He's gone on to be a really well-known actor. She spins around on his chair, and he holds up a cue card which has the word Boogaloo on it from the song.
Yeah.
And then you cut back to Andy, who opened it. Then Pam and Oscar are skating backwards. Oscar's clutching onto Pam. Then this character Stanley, who's really droll and laconic and hates his job. He opens the door, and he's like Jim. He doesn't really want to be part of it. He speaks to whoever's directing this. He says, "You're falling behind." The camera goes through the doors. We see Kelly dancing by herself. She's trying to be really sexy, and she dances in front of a fan. And then my favorite moment in the whole thing, she opens the door, and this great character, Ryan, who changes so much over the course of the series. He starts as Ryan the intern, where he's really kind of observing everybody, and he clearly thinks this is like a really strange place to work. He hardly ever says anything, but then he gets stranger and stranger as the series goes on. He becomes part of middle management, and then he gets fired. He becomes a drug addict. Anyway, he jumps out from behind the door, and he's trying to promote his company. He's got this company, woof.com. He's come up with this app that will, whenever you get an email, you'll simultaneously find out about it on your every social media account you have, Messenger, you'll get it on your phone. It all happens simultaneously. He's trying to promote this company. He jumps out and he says, woof.com.
Woof.com!
Ryan, we're doing
how you
a
build a
dance.
business.
We're doing a
This is how you...
And that's just my favorite moments in any TV series ever. I've been joking. Once a day, I'll be in the car and I'll just out of nowhere, I'll say woof.com. And I've ordered a t-shirt with woof.com on it. And he and Kelly starts arguing. She said, "Brian, why are you," right in the middle of the video, and you hear them speak, "Why are you doing that?" And we hear Ryan say, "That's how you make it in this country." And the camera passes, it leaves them. And next it goes to, and thanks for listening to this, Scott. I know this takes a certain amount to listen to this. They argue, camera passes Gabe and Creed is the guy that used to be in the Grassroots. It passes them. Then we see Kelly and Ryan again. They're still arguing. And Kelly says to Ryan, we hear her say, "You make it so hard to love you." Then they pass Stanley again, and he says, "You're still falling behind." Then we see Angela and Daryl. Daryl's a well-known comedian. He's funny in it. Angela is in Daryl's office, and she's like the real straight-laced, grumpy character on the series. All we hear her say is, I told you, I don't want to be on the internet." Then we cut back to Andy. He's doing crazy stuff. We cut back to Phyllis. Oh, we see Creed do a guitar solo, fake guitar solo, and then he takes a call. He says, Creed here. Then we go finally, after we're halfway through, we finally go into Michael's office, Steve Carell, and he starts doing all this really hokey magic stuff, you know. And you can tell he's so, this is the character, he's so pleased with himself. He thinks he's so brilliant, so funny. And it just, you know, he's ridiculous. Then we go back to the office. Of course, you know, needless to say, the song, that's the only time they cut. They cut from his office back to the main office where we see all the characters. They're going crazy. And we finally see, along with Steve Carell, he's the other main character, Rainn Wilson, plays this totally bizarre guy named Dwight Schrute. He just goes nuts in this last scene. He starts eating stuff and he jumps on a table and he keeps a switchblade and he pulls that out and he cuts Michael's throat. And other characters are looking at him like they're in character, but they're almost looking at him like, wow, this guy's really is nuts. Now, one Zoom that you missed, I talked about this with Tim. I played that clip for, I think, a grade 3 or 4 class. And just because it was great, we were doing DPA and I said, okay, dance along with this. Watch the character, try to dance with them. And then I got worried when I left because I played it all the way through. And I said, one kid's going to go home, tell their parents, oh, you know, the supply teacher showed us a clip today where a guy pulled out a knife and held it in front of somebody's throat. I really got worried about that.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have played it. I told them, of course, when the clip ended, I gave my usual speech. They're just kidding around. It's a rubber knife and it's retractable and he's not hurting anybody. You know, we don't need to talk anymore about this. But I was legitimately worried. Anyway, everybody's dancing, confetti's being thrown around. Dwight goes crazy. Michael reappears, and it ends with finally they stop, and someone says, "How do we do?" And we hear Toby. He's the one character we never see. I guess he's directing it. He's this really funny weird character who he says, "Well, that was better," and it ends there. And it's just great. I believe it or not, I've probably watched that clip 20, 25 times. It's a clip that it just, no matter how I'm feeling, if I want to feel better, I can watch that clip because it's so perfectly done. It's stupid. It captures the essence of the show. If I ranked it, you know, it's a TV show, and it's one of the few things that I ever wrote about that, like I say, it is a complete standalone. It has nothing to do with anything.
Yeah.
The only thing I could think that was maybe a little bit comparable was that opening in Better Call Saul where they used Wendy, where we saw day in the life of this one character, and it connected in no way to the rest of the episode or anything else, but just something you can watch. And you can appreciate all the choreography. Like I say, you miss the content, how the characters relate, the things that they're doing. But I love that clip.
Wow.
And that's the last one I entered for the book, and we're almost done, Scott. The last one we're going to talk about is the one on the Facebook list that I did put number 1.